You just do an upgrade to this version. So you don't need
Okay.
to plan to do any
You-
migration or anything like that. So it's an in-place upgrade.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but I think one of the main features that people have mentioned in terms of this 15.11 version is that there's lots of improvement in the support for Windows 10, which is what they're mentioning here. Comprehensive support for Windows 10, and I think that they're also like pushing a lot of. Um, has anyone used Microsoft Intune in terms of
Mm.
at work or anything like that? Abdul, have you ever used Microsoft Intune before?
Don't use it because I think it is require a subscription, monthly subscription or something. So
Yeah, it does.
my company so far it doesn't have that subscription.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what people think about that. Like, then the other thing, because one of the reasons why we're talking about it is it's important to know some of the things that are going on, like in terms of deployment, so that we don't get left behind and stuff. So the other one is, has anyone ever used in terms of deployment? We'll get there when we talk about operating system deployment. There's this thing called provisioning package for Windows 10. Has anyone ever used that? Provisioning package
Mm-mm.
for Windows 10. Okay, so it's one other thing that, if you're doing config manager, read up on that. Those are the kind of things that you just read up on that, because it could change a bit how you do deployment, building and applying provisioning packages. You just read up on it. So if you can see my screen now, um, you can see how you build a provisioning package and then mention how to deploy it. So, for example, what you typically do, Abdul or Dio or Taiwo, is you have your users, you have your organization, right? You buy laptops for your users or desktops or whatever. So after you buy those laptops and desktops, they come with an OEM version of Windows installed, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what do you do as an admin to provision it as an enterprise machine or as a corporate machine? What you typically do is you wipe the entire OEM,
Yeah.
right?
Operating system.
And then deploy your own through config manager or MGT or whatever, right? So, but what
Mm-hmm.
they're pushing with this provisioning packages is you don't have to wipe a machine to make it a corporate machine. So your user, for example, can go and buy a Surface Pro 4 that has Windows 10 Pro, from, you know, Corey's, Best Buy, PC World, wherever. Now they bring that machine to the enterprise. You don't need to have a special image that you deploy to the user. You can deploy a provisioning package to the user that contains all the corporate settings. So, for example, one of the ones that I've used this for in our own environment is some of our users are beginning to get Surface Pro 4, the new Microsoft Surface Pro 4. So rather than wipe,
Yes.
yeah, exactly, but it comes with Windows 10 provisioning. So rather
Windows
than,
10. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So rather than wipe everything off, we created a provisioning pack that will deploy to those machines. And once it gets deployed to that machine, it will upgrade it immediately from Pro to Enterprise. It will deploy branding to it. And what that means is that we're able to make that device a corporate device without wiping it. So
Mm.
kind of like a BYOD scenario. So you can get a machine in your environment. You don't have to wipe all the operating system to make it a corporate device anymore. You can customize your provisioning package and deploy it to the machine, and it will take the existing Windows 10 image and make it into a corporate image. So if I expand this, just so you see what Microsoft is saying about it. So if you see my screen, what they're saying is provisioning packages lets you quickly configure a new device without going through the process of installing a new image. So basically, you can make if it's a Windows 10 image that's on it, you don't need to wipe it. You can just make it a corporate image, deploy provisioning pack to it, and it's easy to deploy also. So you can even attach it like the one that we're using for the Surface Pro that I mentioned. We just send this in an email to users, and all the user has to do is double click on it, and it's going to do everything. So you can either send an email to user, put it on a network share where they can go and download it and double click on it, or you could either use config manager or Windows Intune to deploy to the users. But the advantage of this is, you can see lots of stuff that you can do. You can ingest certificate, enterprise policies, data assets, branding, all kinds of stuff that you can do with it. So it's an interesting one to watch out for if you're into config manager and stuff like that. So just keep your eyes out on this one so that we're not go. Yeah, things are evolving a lot in IT deployment world, and we don't want to be like the people that used to do typewriters in the old days. And when computers came and took over, they're not sure what to do. So things are rapidly evolving. So things going forward, things may not be done the way we are used to in the past. So things are rapidly changing. So we should learn what's coming up. Okay. So today we want to discuss a bit more config manager in terms of inventory and stuff like that. Oh, I'm not sure. What happened? Oh, okay. We lost we lost Taiwo and Dio. I hope the chat link is okay. Let me bring up Paint. Um, so yeah, but how did you find the training, Abdul? Did you really like which one, which aspect of the training did you find the most useful to you?
Sorry again, there was break in the line.
Ah, sorry, yeah. As in, which aspect of the training did you find most useful to you?
For me, almost everything, because basically, if you remember the Hangouts I joined with you,
Mm,
it was very very helpful for me, to understand how SSM is working. I know discovering the machine, the machine and everything.
yeah,
And for the training, it was including all the labs.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I have a time to do the labs.
yeah,
So it was in my mind. It was scattered. It was distributed in different topics.
yeah.
After attending the course and doing the lab, I think alhamdulillah, I'm understand most of the lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very helpful for me, alhamdulillah.
Ah, nice, excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last week we were talking about hardware and software inventory, and one of the main things that we mentioned. So so in terms of um, getting information about what software is actually installed on a machine, which one will you trust the most? Hardware inventory or software inventory? So you want to get an accurate information of software that's installed on a machine. Which one will you trust the most? Will you trust hardware inventory or will you trust software inventory?
So,
I,
hardware
I
inventory.
Okay, Taiwo says hardware inventory. What about Abdul? What do you think?
I think hardware inventory.
Why? What's the reason why it's hardware inventory?
Um,
Because we're
well,
talking about software that's installed on a machine.
well, because software will pick up any for instance, maybe software inventory will pick up any exec exec file
Mm-hmm.
on the system.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be, for instance, if you've got, let's say you had Office 2010, then you've upgraded to 2013 and 2016.
Yeah.
So all those softwares
Mm-hmm.
during the software inventory,
Mm-hmm.
it will pick them up.
Yeah.
So that makes the data not the so that will make the data not correct because that's wrong data. But with hardware inventory,
Mm-hmm.
it's using WMI,
Mm-hmm.
which means it will scan through your hardware and I've forgotten there was something but with hardware inventory, it scans it's it uses WMI, and with hardware inventory, you get the correct softwares that are installed. I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember how, but I know with software inventory, it picks up all the executable files, so that makes the data um, not valid because you
Ah,
have too many information.
okay. Yep. Anything else that you want to add, Abdul? or any other reason why you think you trust hardware when it comes to discovering what software is installing on a machine, you trust hardware inventory more than software inventory. Any other reason why? Abdul, anything else?
I think so you said for hardware
Ah, your
inventory,
voice is really
it's
low.
FW.
I think your mic, I'm not sure.
Hello, can you hear me?
Ah, it's really faint. Taiwo, can you hear Abdul clearly?
No.
Not at all. No, it's really, really faint. Is your mic plugged in? It sounds as if your mic is far, not plugged in, and it was working properly before. We could hear you clearly before.
Okay, let me.
Mm, So muted now, it's showing that you're muted now. Yeah, unmuted now. Yeah. Hello. Ah, yeah, it's still faint. Okay, yeah, yeah. Carry on still. Let's see if we can hear you. If you carry on still, let's see if we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. For hardware inventory, because SCCM will communicate when you use WMI, so you have accurate information. I'm not sure about software. I think it will start searching for the installed file and programs all programs files. So I think the hardware inventory is reliable and accurate.
Ah, yeah. Okay, yeah. It's still faint. Yeah, but okay. So basically, I think you're both accurate that in terms of that you will trust hardware inventory more. And the reason again is what I will mention in terms of um, software inventory. We mentioned this last week that software inventory is basically doing file scanning, which is basically going on your machine and scanning for the files that you want it to scan for. So when you're configuring software inventory, if I bring up the machine here, when we're configuring software inventory, we can go under administration, client settings, and if I go under properties here, and when we enable software inventory here, we can go 1 minute. Oh, okay, yeah, better now. So we can go software inventory here. Then we can go set the type of files that we want you to want the um that we want config manager to scan for, and we can say want you to scan for um anything that so we can use wildcards. So we can use wildcards like start. So we can say want you to scan for anything that's .exe. We want you to search the hard drive. We want you to exclude encrypted and compressed files or want you to exclude files in the Windows folder. So one other thing to note whenever you're doing software inventory is that it places a lot of load on the machine because again, you're scanning for you're scanning different, so it depends on where you want to scan. You can say scan all the hard drive, or you can say scan a specific folder. But one other reason why software inventory can consume more resources is, for example, if you have antivirus applications in your environment. So most antivirus applications are set to scan any file that is accessed. So if you as a user, if you go to your document and you double click on, um, you know, Taiwo.docx, you double click on it. When you're double clicking on it, your antivirus kicks in and scans that file before you actually open it. So most antivirus are configured to scan anything that is accessed. So you should be careful of that because when you're now doing software inventory, whenever you're doing software inventory, it's going to make your antivirus go crazy. At the same time, the machine itself will be going crazy. So expect spike in hard drive utilization and CPU utilization whenever you're doing software inventory. So you're saying scan the entire C drive, that means your antivirus will need to scan everything in the C drive again. Because once config manager tries to access the file to um, to see to access the file to see if it meets your requirement, your antivirus will scan it first, then config manager will say, okay, yeah, it meets this requirement. I'm able to inventory this file. So that's one thing to watch out for when it comes to using software inventory. So you just need file scanning. And one thing we mentioned is we said Abdul may have a file called word.exe on your machine. That doesn't mean you have Microsoft Word installed on your machine. You know, so because there's a file called word.exe on your machine, doesn't mean you have that installed on your machine. Now, what software inventory will do is that it's not only just looking at the file name, it will look at the header of the file. But we mentioned that even though it's going to look at the header of the file, so what that means is even if Taiwo renames this as something else, config manager can still look at the header of the file and pick out what that file is. But one disadvantage that we also mentioned with that is different file and different file headers could have different names in them. So for example, we mentioned that last week that you could have Office 2013 installed on your machine, but actually, if you go where you've installed Office 2013, there are files that if you look in their headers has Office 2010 in them. And the reason is because those files were introduced into the Office suite when Office 2010 was released, but they're still in use in Office 2013. So software inventory will report back and say you have Office 2013 and Office 2010 installed on your machine. Whereas you only have 2013 installed on your machine, but because 2013 also uses files that were in use in 2010, software inventory is no smarter. It just goes, yep, I can see a file here, and the file header is telling me Office 2010. And so you go on the software inventory on machines, and I'm not sure if we have a sample here. So let's go under assets and compliance, under devices. Let's look for a machine. So this one doesn't really have much installed on it, but let's open it and see. So if I start Resource Explorer on this guy and see software inventory, let's see, last software scan, product details. Well, it's not done any software inventory, so I'll close that. Let's look for something else that's done software inventory. What about this one? Anything at all that's done software inventory on this in this environment? Software product details. Oh, nothing has done software inventory. Maybe I have not enabled it then. How about client one? Let's see. Start Resource Explorer. Nothing. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So maybe I've not. Let's go back and see my client settings, administration, client settings. If I deployed this, any deployment? Yeah, okay, it's deployed. Let's see properties. Let's just make sure we don't have conflicts in policies. Okay. So, but software inventory is definitely. So the other reason why they may not have done software inventory is because the environment is off most of the time. So I go on the software inventory, set to occur every 7 days. So let's click OK. Let me go to one of the machines and let's trigger software inventory. So one of the things that we want to mention is if I go back on the, so I have learned DC1 here. So let's go on the learn DC1 and trigger a software inventory. So let's connect that. Because one of the things that you find out if you look in under software inventory results is you may find that your machine has Windows 10 on it, but under software inventory it's reporting I have Windows 10, I have Windows 8, I have Windows 7, I have Windows XP. Like, hold on, I only have Windows 10 on my machine. And the reason for that is because there are some files that are used in Windows 10 that were actually put into Windows in Windows 7. And the file headers are reporting Windows 7. So if I go back to control panel here, and let's trigger a quick software inventory scan. Software inventory cycle. Let's run that. So then the other thing also that I need to watch out for is what exactly have I asked them to inventory? Because if I've not asked them to inventory anything, and they won't inventory anything. So I go back to properties there, and then let's go to software inventory, and I say okay, enable that inventory files none. That's why. So I want to inventory everything that star.exe. Okay, I'll say okay. I also want to inventory anything that star.inf and say okay, and let's click OK to that. So I'm not collecting any files. Um, so now we've created the policy, or we've adjusted the policy. It takes a while. The policy will apply. Then I'll go update the policy on the machine, and then we'll do that. So if I go back to learn DC1, and then I do a machine policy retrieval, let it get the new policy or an updated policy, and then we'll do a software inventory scan after that. So then on the machine itself, if I go on the client itself and I go under the C drive, and if I go on the program, sorry, on the Windows CCM logs, so I can look under inventory agent if I want. Config manage trace tool. Let's see what's going on with the inventory agent when I trigger that. So software inventory run now. Okay, so set start of message processing. So what's it doing? So let me just run the policy, make sure it has the updated policy. Then we'll run software inventory and then see what comes back when we check. So one of the reasons why we're doing this is to show that whenever you do that, it's just scanning for files. Whereas the other one, it's doing like what Taiwo said, it's doing WMI queries. So that's all hardware inventory is doing. It's just doing WMI queries. So it's asking your machine, tell me what's installed here. Tell me how many hard drives you have. Tell me how many memory disks you have installed. And all those information are stored in the WMI database on the machine. So WMI itself is a database on the machine that exposes information about the underlying infrastructure of the machine. So in the Linux world or in the Mac world, it's called OMI, Open Management Infrastructure. Windows implementation of that is Windows Management, is WMI. I is no infrastructure. You can unmute yourself. What does I mean? WMI is Windows Management Implementation or something like that. You can unmute yourself if you want to. Yeah.
I think instrumentation.
Instrumentation. Yeah. Sorry. It's instrumentation. So OMI is the one for Linux and Macs. So OMI, WMI, yeah, Open Management Infrastructure. So this is kind of like it's kind of like the open version of Microsoft WMI. So this is the one that Macs use. It's the same one that Unix use. It's the same one that Linux uses. And which is why in config manager, if you have Mac in your infrastructure, hardware inventory will work, but software inventory doesn't work for Linux and Mac machines. So remember that if you're going to be doing the exam. So software inventory only works for Windows machine. Hardware inventory will work for any supported hardware by in config manager. So whether it's Linux, Unix, Mac, or Windows, it's going to work because it's just doing WMI queries or OMI queries on that. So that's all it's doing. So if we minimize this and actually go back again. Okay. Mm-mm. Minute. Let's go back to config manager and then system status messages. Let's just view our status messages. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I hope my config manager infrastructure is now corrupted completely. 1 minute, guys. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. Go back to here and OBDC one is the one that I did. And then, so I'm not sure if it's done anything yet, but nothing's coming yet. I think we'll come back to this one. Yeah. Yeah. Then the other one that we mentioned is okay. Hardware inventory when it uses WMI. So, and we said under installed applications here is where it's just querying WMI and saying, tell me which applications are installed on you. And this is a more accurate representation because there you can get the product ID. So it's actually asking the WMI database or the OMI database for information and getting the replies back in that way. So the other thing that we didn't touch on last week was hardware inventory can be extended. So like all this information that we see here, hardware inventory can collect more information than this. So for example, one thing that came up in our environment more recently, I mentioned last week, is we needed information about there's a new feature in Windows 10. And that new feature, that new security feature, requires the use of TPM version 2. So the question that came up was that, okay, how do we determine how many machines in our environment have TPM version 2 installed? Now, by default, we could not find that here because there's no information here that's pointing to that. But what we can do is we can go under the client settings and we can actually extend hardware inventory this way. We can extend the information that hardware inventory is collecting, and that's under classes. So again, all this is pointing back to WMI, OMI. Because if you know like WMI, OMI, if you go get WMI object dash. So first of all, you have namespace. You say, okay, root slash sim v2, and then you have classes under that. So you could actually just download like a WMI browser and just browse to it. And so what this is saying is collect information from more classes. So that's all this one is doing. So for example, there's a class here for BitLocker, and this can get you information on the device ID, the drive letter, the persistent volume, the protection status of the machines. If it's like a laptop device, you have a class for batteries that can tell you what the device ID of the battery is, any error description, any estimated charge remaining, and stuff like that. So you can actually go here and extend the information it's getting. You can get more information on the boot configuration. It will tell you the boot directory, the configuration parts, and you can select all these and get more information from your machine. Computer system product is another one. So just look through these because you might find that there's some interesting classes that you want to get information from that config manager is not configured to collect such information by default. So that's like what this one is for. You can extend config manager, hardware inventory, and get WMI to do more queries. So, but again, remember that it's advisable to only do the queries that you need, because the more queries you're doing, it can have an impact on the machine. But these days we have machines that are SSDs, so um, maybe not. But that's just one thing to be aware of. So then the other thing that we said we are going to talk about is hardware inventory. Sorry, not hardware inventory, is asset intelligence. We talk about software inventory, hardware inventory. Okay, then one other thing to mention is in terms of maintenance tasks that are available for hardware and software inventory. Under administration on the site, we can actually go under whatever sites that we have here. So you have to do this for each site and go under site maintenance. And one is delete old inventory information. Yeah, here we go. Delete aged inventory information. So this is important because config manager collects inventory information and keeps them. Hardware inventory, it keeps, for example, if I close this and I go back on the this one, so you can see we have hardware inventory information here, and here you can find hardware history here, and I can go under hardware history and you can see it's keeping like all this history for what the hardware inventory was for this date, what the hardware inventory was for this date, and it's keeping like all this history um, regarding hardware inventory. So what we can do is we can say, okay, any history that's older than 90 days, or configure whatever days you want and get config manager to delete such histories. So you find out that your machine is keeping your config manager infrastructure is keeping more data than you want it to keep. Just reduce this and just change it to whatever you want.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah, yes, please.
Um, the history
Mm,
now. Well, if hardware does not change
mm-hmm.
on the system,
Yeah,
then there will be no need for keeping history because the data still remains the same.
yeah.
Would the history just be the softwares that have been installed
So
on it?
here's one thing to note is that software inventory. So for example, like software inventory, if you're talking about software, if you're talking about software under software inventory doesn't keep any history.
Yeah, okay.
It
I'm
only,
talking
yeah.
about like
So if you're talking
software.
about software under hardware inventory, so
Yes.
yeah, definitely. So for example, a user installs new software, it's going to reflect here.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
then if you go back, you can see, oh, on these days, this was the software that was installed on this user's machine. On these days, this is the software that's installed on this user's machine.
Okay. So what data is configuration manager deleting? Is it data that is no longer in use by the system? For instance, if I've uninstalled the software,
Hmm.
because is that the data that is
So yes,
deleting?
so it's deleting data that's older than a particular number of days. So for example, if I did a hardware scan yesterday and I
Oh,
have data
okay.
for that,
It keeps a record of each scan it does.
yeah. So it's data that's older than this particular number of days. I'm
Right.
gonna delete. So once data is like, oh, okay, I'm this amount of days old, then I'm gonna delete it. So delete aged
So it's
inventory
got like
information.
duplicate data
Yes,
of okay, yeah.
yeah. Abdul, do you have anything to say to that? You can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Ah, now much better now. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think for hardware inventory, sorry, if there is no changes happen in the on the client machine, so it is by default keeping the old data for some time, then delete it. What will happen if there is no any changes happen in the on hardware itself on that machine?
So here's the thing is that again, uh, remember that hardware inventory goes beyond hardware. That's one thing to keep in mind. It goes way beyond hardware. Like we mentioned this one when we talked about, this one like installed applications. Your users are installing software updates all the time. If they have local admin rights, you're guaranteed they're installing applications. So it's not just the hardware of the machine, it's also lot more information than the hardware of the machine. So it's, for example, this one, recently used applications. That's definitely changing, right? But that's under hardware inventory.
Okay.
So hardware
So
inventory is way much more than just hardware. It's collecting it because again, it's just doing WMI queries, and there's basically no limit to the amount of information you can collect about a device if you use WMI.
yeah. Okay. But, what I'm guessing how SSM dealing with hardware inventory.
Mhm.
Let's say it has the latest inventory data, okay?
Yeah.
And it will do the scan. If there is any change, okay,
hmm
we'll move it to the history. The old data it will be moved to the history,
Yeah.
and it will keep the latest data, the current one. So after some times, let's say as the policy setting,
hmm
maybe it's set for 90 days. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if I bring this one up, let's bring this one up. So 1 minute. Let me bring this one up. Um,
On the site,
yeah.
it is mentioned after 90 days. Delete history after 90 days. Yes.
Yes.
So after 90 days, this history it will be
Deleted.
deleted.
Yeah.
Okay. So it will check for the changes only.
Yeah. So
Uh huh.
let me bring this one up. Maybe this one will. Let me bring this Microsoft documentation up. So maybe it will help us all, including myself, to understand it better. Okay, hardware contains the most recent hardware inventory collected from the specified configuration manager client device. You can review the inventory item workstation status to discover the time and date when the device last performed the hardware inventory. So under workstation status, yeah, so you can see from here the date and time that I performed this inventory. So under hardware inventory, workstation status. So if we go down here, it says hardware history. It says contains a history of inventoried items that have changed since the last hardware inventory was performed. Each item in the list contains a current node and one or more date nodes. You can compare the information in the current node to one of the historical nodes to discover items that have changed in the client computer's hardware inventory. Configuration Manager retains hardware inventory for the number of days that you specify in the delete aged inventory history site maintenance task. So because we specified that it keeps data for 90 days, it's going to retain that data for 90 days in
Yes.
the yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And after 90 days, it's going to delete that aged inventory information. So if you don't want it to retain, up to 90 days worth of. So again, remember, like what you said, if data has not changed, so there really won't be any history because data has not changed. Because the way hardware inventory works also, this is worth mentioning because we've not mentioned this also. So let me bring this up. So when you're doing hardware inventory, the very first time that you do a hardware inventory is going to do a full inventory. So that's the first thing. So it's going to do a full inventory the very first time. Then after that, it doesn't do a full inventory. It does a delta inventory. So the very first time it does a full inventory, sends it up to the management point. So let me bring that up again. So it does a full inventory. Um, let's bring this one up. Sends it to the management point. Management point sends it to the site server. Site server stores it in database. So that's the progression. So this is the management point. This is the site server, and this is the site database. So first time does a full inventory of everything I have, sends it to this guy. This guy, again, remember, does anyone know what happens when it sends it to this guy? What's the format that it uses? Anyone remember from last week?
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, does anyone remember from last week? What's the format that it uses? Taiwo, do you remember? We mentioned this last week.
No.
XML. So remember, when it does this, it does it in XML. So the management point takes this XML information from this guy and then converts it into configuration manager information. So again, if we go on the, I remember Taiwo that we mentioned this and we traced it last week. So
Yes.
if I go on the C program files, SCCM logs, MP hardware inventory. So let us see. So if we go here and let us scroll up to see what's happening. So so let's see when an inventory data came in, a hardware inventory data came into this machine. Okay, so for example, here's one. It says, um, okay, copying attachments, this one. So this is what came in from the client. It's an XML file. It says processing this XML file, right? Processing the XML file from this guy, and then it changes the XML file to a MIF file. Can you see? So it's taking the XML file reported by this guy. This is the XML file reported by the client. It's converted it into a MIF file that it's now sent up to the site server. So that's what the management point work is in this whole process. It's converting the XML file that was reported by the client here, converting into a MIF file, sending it up to this one. So convert it to a MIF file here. Then this one takes the MIF file and then stores it into the database. So from then on, when next your machine, so by default, machines are configured to do inventory every 7 days by default. So in the next 7 days, at 12, so usually it's 12 a.m. by default. So at 12 a.m. every 7 days. So at 12 a.m., the machine will kick in and say, I have to do an inventory. Somebody say, what happens if the machine is off at that time? So if the machine is off at the time when it's supposed to do the next hardware inventory, the next time the machine comes in, immediately it's going to do an hardware inventory. So that's the behavior. So it does but this time around, it's not going to do a full inventory. So what it's going to do is it's going to do a delta, or actually it's not as if it's not going to do a full inventory. It's going to do a full inventory on the client. So the configuration manager will do a full inventory. But then the configuration manager client keeps a record of this. So this full inventory that I've reported to this guy, right? I have a record of it on the client. So, but what I'll do is I'll do another full inventory. I'll now compare both of them. If they are the same, I won't send anything up to this guy. If there's a difference, I'll take the difference between this one and this one, and I'll send it to the management point. Whatever the differences are between the last full inventory and the first full inventory. So the reason why I mentioned that is to note that Delta inventory doesn't save resources on the client, because as far as the client is concerned, I'm doing a full inventory every time. But it saves network resources because I don't have to send a full inventory every time. So that's like what's happening with our process. So it's doing a full inventory on the client, but it's not sending a full inventory. It's just going to do a delta inventory on the client. Sorry, it's only going to send the delta inventory. Abdul, you want to say something?
Yes. Okay. We'll do the comparison between the two records, the SCCM client agent or the management point.
SCCM client.
Okay.
So the SCCM client is the one. So actually, let me go to this machine, for example. If I go to my SCCM client machine, and okay, this one, for example, let's go to not the logs file. Let's go on the CCM under inventory here, on the temp here, and you can see there's a record of some XML documents here, right? So it's keeping like this records here of some XML documents. Open with Notepad, format, word wrap. So software, client installed. So it does. So in this temp file here, it keeps a record of the last inventory that is sent up. And that's what it's going to compare it against. So that includes both for software and for hardware inventory. So I think that's software. Software also. So actually, if I just go ahead and trigger a hardware inventory now, control panel, configuration manager, actions, hardware inventory cycle, run now. Okay. Time is 21:01:30. So let's see. So it's currently in the process of doing inventory. And this inventory provider, this is inventory agent. So you can see what it's doing. So hardware inventory will take a while, but you can look at all this thing that it's doing. So what is it doing? WMI queries. So it's saying, hey, look for this collection of from this namespace. This is the query to execute. Get this information for me. So you're seeing it's doing the queries one by one. So it's saying from this route. So basically, what hardware inventory is just doing is WMI queries to different namespaces depending on the classes that you've enabled. So it's getting like all those information. When it finishes collecting all this information, it's going to drop them here inside this guy. So right now, look at the last date is 30/01/2016, right? 2040, right? That's the last modified date of this one. But then, okay, successfully sent report destination MP. So it's saying I've completed this task. And look at this. Can you see this? Can anyone see this on the board?
Yeah, temp report. This is the
Yeah,
folder.
exactly. So it says, hey, here we go. Here's the report that I've just created. I've saved it to this location on this machine. And now I'm reporting it to the management point. But the report is in which format? XML format, right?
Yes.
And that was 2102, right? That it says, so when did it say I sent the report? It said I sent the report at 210202 on the 30th. So let's go to the management point and see what's going on. So right here on the management point, let's see from 21. So management point, hardware inventory. Let's see. So is this hardware inventory? Yeah, there's hardware inventory. So that should come in, except my again, would not. My machine could be messed up completely. So what should happen is I should see that up here, and this guy saying because this guy picks it up, so it drops it inside this folder. So you know that one has a XML file, right? It takes that XML file and sends it to the management point. Where does it send it on the management point? It sends it into this inbox folder. Uh, go away, go away. That's not what I want. Go away. Let's go back to this one. I've made, yeah, okay, here we go. Let's get rid of that one. And let's see. So process, it's empty. With anything, nothing. So it's under process that it drops it and says, but I should be except again, my config manager infrastructure may not be something that I'll trust because it could be completely messed up because I've done all kinds of crazy stuff. So under MP hardware inventory is where it comes and drops that XML file. Now when that XML file gets under MP hardware inventory, this guy will convert it to a MIF file and then send it up to the site server. So that's not happening. I think my config manager infrastructure is messed up. Sincerely, I think it's messed up. Or let's see. Actually, do I still have any more days left? Because that's the other thing is that it could be that I've run out of days. So if I run out of days, evaluation. Sorry. Oh, let me just minimize this. Okay. 115 days left. Yeah, still have more days. So I'm not sure why that's not coming up. So again, like that's like one other thing that you look for when you're doing like the troubleshooting. You can trace the entire process. So for example, the client said I've sent the report, right? On the client. So the client says Delta report sent from so you can see here it says it's a Delta report. But again, where am I? I'm on, oh, sorry, this one, I'm on the SCCM server. Let's go back to the client. So the client said inventory temp report, sent the inventory temp result to the management point, and it's signed, is not encrypted. So that's 2102. That's 3001.2102. And that's MP underscore hardware inventory endpoint. But then what we are saying now is that that's not been picked up by the management point. So that's like one. So you're tracing this whole thing. This guy has sent the report. But now going under the management point, what I expect to see is I should see, if I go, so what I should see here is I should see, oh, the report just came in and I'm processing it, but that's not coming in. So something is obviously not right with my machine with the management point. Um, so what I could do is I could do try the same thing on another client. So I connect to this client machine and let's try the same thing and let's see. But I'm not sure like is that because we mentioned this last week also that this is how we follow the old steps when you're doing troubleshooting. Just follow the steps that are supposed to happen. So we know the steps that are supposed to happen in this case is this guy does the processing, right? After he finishes the processes, he drops it into that temp folder. And then from that temp folder, he copies it into a folder on this guy. And we know what the folder is from here. Um, so it's just ignore this guy. So we know what the folder is from minimize the client. Go back to the DC. Um, minimize the DC. Go back to the SCCM server. So it drops it in this folder here under C program files, config manager, inboxes, data loader. So it drops it inside this location on the management point. And it drops it under /process. So this guy picks it up and then converts it to a MIF file and then sends it up to the site server. So we can trace the folder that it drops it in on the site server, where it drops it in. So we can trace it on the site server. But now what's happened is this guy, whenever he receives it, whenever this guy sends it, you can find all the information in inventory agent.log. And whenever this guy receives it, you can find it in under MP hardware inventory.log. But now what we're seeing is we're not even getting anything here. So that shows us like where so if you're noticing, oh, machines has not reported hardware inventory for like a long time, and you're tracing the whole step. So now you can see here that, okay, hold on, this guy is not reporting I'm receiving something. Something is wrong in the process between this guy is saying I've sent it, this guy has not received it. Something is wrong in the point here. So maybe we can, let's see if it's something that will be easy for us to fix. It would just be that my machine needs a restart. But let's go back to the client. Let's do another one. So let's go to this machine now, for example. Let's go under control panel, configuration manager. Okay, and then we're going to machine policy. Oh, sorry, not machine policy. Let's go under hardware inventory. And in this case, I'll open inventory agent again. So open under logs. Let's open inventory agent.log. And let's go hardware inventory run now. Okay, so we can see it started the inventory process. Temp directory, again, it's saying this is the directory. I'll save it once I finish. So we can actually go to that directory and see what this guy is doing. Let's go back to that directory. Okay, let's hold on and see. So that's last one's 23, and then you see when it starts all the hardware inventory queries, and it's trying to collect like all this information, and then you see when it sends it up to the site server. So it does all the query, all the WMI queries. And if you're looking on a Linux machine or Mac machine, yeah, it said I'm done. That's the file there. It says I've sent it up to the management point, right? That's 30/01/2016. That's 21/10/27. So let's go to that mesh to the SCCM server again. Sorry, to the management point and see is anything coming in. So again, nothing is coming in here. So something is wrong with my management point. So I know when I saw on the monitoring on the site status, I think I saw a lot of error messages. Yeah, and who knows? Management point is critical here. So something is definitely wrong. So you can't even start it. It said the program can't start because you can't even start view to view what the so we can't even start the error message viewer on this machine to even see what the issue is. But it's telling me my management point is critical. So I can go under start here, go under the service manager, see what's going on with the management point services. So under components, I can even go under services. Inventory data loader, select query. So it's running, but then something is not right with the management point. MP control manager, query running. Login to MP control.log. So let me go to that location. So again, this like some of the things that we do whenever we want to troubleshoot something. Something is not right with the management point. So so let's go back to this one. I hope I'm not boring you guys. Is this useful for you?
Yeah, it is. I mean,
Yeah.
troubleshooting.
Yeah. What about Abdul? Is this useful at all for you? So before okay. Okay.
Useful, yes.
So under my management point, let me see what's going on under properties. Okay. HTTPS allow internet and internet. Use the site database. So that looks okay. The configuration here. So the other thing I want to check, let me go on the site. Sorry, Taiwo, you want to say something?
No, I was thinking of something. Since you didn't make any changes, I was wondering, if we just try restarting the services and opening an open configuration manager again,
So
would that help?
here's the thing is that which service do I restart?
All of them.
Okay, XMS executive. Because again, remember who was around when we talked about this? I think Abdul was around. Remember that many of these services are just thread of this main service, which is the SMS executive. So SMS executive is the main service. All these guys are just threads of SMS executive. So we could restart SMS executive, like I said. So if I query that, so it says running. So I could go stop SMS executive. That is stopping it. So remember, it's gonna stop everything because all these guys are threads of this guy. Query is still stopping it.
Well, sorry.
Yeah.
Why do you use this one? Why not use the ones under services?
So good question, Abdul. Do you want to answer that? Why not use services rather than why use SCCM Service Manager? Why Taiwo is asking why do I go to this one rather than just going under Windows services and just looking for SMS executive here?
Yeah, I mean, you answered this question in one of the
Yeah.
Hangouts.
Yeah.
It's better to have, instead to restart the whole service.
Yeah.
You can just, restart the threads, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So what that means is, for example, you see this SMS executive service here.
Yeah.
If you restart it, you're actually restarting a lot of other components. You're restarting all these other components. You can see that all these are actually threads of that service. So for sometimes you don't need to restart everything. So for example, you're just having an issue with client health. Yeah. You want to restart this component. But if you go under services and restart everything, you're restarting things that you don't need to restart. So here you could actually get the different components that are under this service. But you cannot see all those different components from under services here.
Hello, David.
Yeah, hello.
Can you show me again how you open this console?
So if you go under monitoring in config manager, yeah, under monitoring, and you go under site status, or even I think under component status or whatever, and click on under start here, configuration manager, service manager. Yeah.
But I think, wait, I might be wrong. On
Yeah.
that services, I think the SMS executive,
Hmm?
is it running?
So no, because I stopped it already in that
Oh,
one.
you stopped?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I stopped it in
'Cause
that one. Yeah.
okay.
So, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that point is clear, Taiwo, in terms of
Yeah, no,
sometimes.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need
'Cause-
to restart a component monitor, but rather than restart the whole service, but which is
oh,
the only thing
seven.
you can do under services. But this one, you can see that all these guys are threads running under this service.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I query this one now, it stopped. So if I query this one now, it stopped because it's a thread under SMS executive, which is stopped now. Which I may not need to do because this one is kind of like a hammer rather than repairing like little. It could just be a little issue that you have. So if I query the SMS executive, yeah, so it's showing as running now. So if I query that, yeah, that one too is running now. If I query that, that one too is running now. So yeah, Taiwo, if you want to restart the whole SMS executive and restart everything, that's okay to use the services there. But sometimes you just want to restart a single component and there's no point affecting, because offer manager has a problem, why affect your distribution manager? You know, because if a single component has a problem, why do you have to impact all the other components that don't have a problem? Just restart the component that has a problem rather than everything. But in case you're not sure which component has a problem, like we are not in this case. So, okay, let's go back to under this one. So what's going on with our manage? So our management point has not received, basically it's saying I've not received anything. Aha, I think it's come back to life. Oh, no, not this one. Sorry, not this one. This guy here. So this guy has not received anything yet. So what else? What else can I check to see the health of my management point? Because again,
Oh,
my management point is telling me here, he's saying I'm critical under site status. Oh, okay, look at this. This is interesting. Total number of bytes is 0 bytes. That's interesting. Have I run out of this space?
Yeah,
Okay.
but okay.
Refresh. No.
But if you right click and look at the error,
So that's the other thing that my message my config manager infrastructure has a problem because if I go under show messages and go under show me all messages, it says sorry, something is broken. You can't
oh,
even open this one. So I think I need to restart this server, right? Do you agree with me?
yeah.
Because I can't even view the error messages, so I'll just restart the server.
Well, it's what I'll do.
Yeah. So let's just restart the server. But again, that's like how you trace everything. For example, if you just do the scan and you don't trace it, we won't be able to know that, okay, hold on. This guy said I've delivered a message to this guy, but this guy is not reporting it. And whatever happens, whether in config manager or any Windows system, they log it down somewhere. So when this guy sends the information, it logs it and said, I've sent the information to this guy. And when this guy receives the information, he says, yep, I've received the information from this guy. So, but this guy is now saying I've not received any information, whereas this guy is saying I've sent the information. Then that means have a look at this guy, or have a look at the pipe between this guy and this guy. Something is wrong in the midst here. It's the same thing if you're like, okay, how come my machines are not updating their inventory in the database for like the past 70 days? And then you trace it, but maybe you notice this guy has received the information, but then you go on the log on the site server, which is data loader, and then you notice that this guy said I've sent the information, but this guy is not receiving anything. Or not only data loader, I think it's also software inventory. I think there's something called software inventory.log also on the site server. So you have a look at this guy. So this one for hardware inventory, this one for software inventory, and this guy saying, "Hey, I've finished my own processing. I've sent it to you." This guy's like, "Nope, I've not seen anything." So you have to have a look at either the link between this guy and this guy, or something is wrong with this guy. So let's see when the config manager infrastructure comes back on. Let's see what happens. So it's come back on now. Let's log back into it. First of all, let me see if I can open the status messages and see what's going on. It's showing me 0 byte, which is strange because I'm sure I have lots of space on there. But let's see. Okay, let's open the config manager console again. So which is why as config manager guys, one of our best, so just, whenever you have the chance, just read the logs for fun. Because it will show you things that you never even configuration manager
On
log.
1602.
Which one's that? Okay, no, I'm just checking 1602. I think 1602 will come out much later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so sometimes, just read I do it sometimes when I'm on the train on the way to work. Because I see some interesting things I've never noticed before. I'm like, oh, I never even knew that there's something logging this information. So you tell me this guy records information about client status, evaluation activities, details for components. So I just read through all these logs to just see if anything interesting comes out at me. So I can look at this log if I'm having this issue. So it generates a usage data report that is collected. So, okay, I can look at this log for software monitoring, things that you probably have not thought about before. So just read this log files for something. Okay, let's go back on the monitoring. Let's see if we go on the system status, site status. Can we open that now? Show messages or so something is not right. The program can't start because MFC 120 is missing from your computer. That's like a really strange one. MFC 120U. I'm just quickly searching Google. And then the other thing that I've not checked yet is I've not checked my event viewer actually. So let me check the event viewer and see if there's anything special going on there also. So applications, anything that could help me out. So again, I'll go on the C drive. So one thing to remember is that config manager, the management point, keeps its log in a different location than the site server. So site server is under program files, config manager, and logs here. You see the logs there. So that's the site server. But your management point under program files, SMS CCM, under logs, and then you see the logs for the management point or some other services. So the one we're looking for is this one. So it's still not updated anything and said I've not received anything. But again, my config manager system is not in
Um,
it. Yeah,
I
Captain
don't know
Taiwo.
if would this trick work? I mean,
Which
you
thing?
stopped the logs by the last time they were modified. To
Yep,
see maybe there are some other
later
ones.
modified ones. Okay, let's go to that. Let's go to
I don't know if the
management
because
point
that's what
logs.
I.
Yep. So
So
under
then you
CTMS.
can have a look at some that might.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's true. That's good. A good suggestion. So all those does not necessarily mean there's a problem. So people are like saying something is wrong with the machine. Do SFC scan now on the machine? So some people say the best thing to do is to SFC/scan now, which takes a while to complete. But so we probably have to move on and come back to this. Could not load configuration for component MP registration manager. So that seems to be, there seems to be a lot of these messages in this log. Not load configuration for component client location. But at this point, I'm not sure if it actually means something is wrong, but there's like a lot of this in this, and that's from a long time ago. That's been going on for a long time. So I'm not sure if that's like an issue, but let's see. Anything else? Same messaging. Okay, but this is for this guy himself. Okay, 1 minute. Anything? Okay, let's see. But then the strange thing is, does anyone know the reason why this guy is showing as having 0 byte?
Hello?
Hello? Hello, I'm listening. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Maybe the hard drive is not detected.
Ah, okay. He's doing something now. Okay. Sorry. It's just deceiving me. Okay, so let's see. The location is pointing to is this location, C drive. But yeah, I mean, it's if I go back to it, so we're in the C drive now. We're in program files configuration manager. Right here is saying I have 79.7 gig. This guy is saying no, I have 0 byte. And he's saying management point, I'm critical. I have 0 byte. I'm not sure. And I don't want to reset the count because I want to see the error messages. So let's wait for the scan now to finish. In the meantime, let's move on. Okay, yeah. So let me just create another quick whiteboard. So asset intelligence. Before we finish, let's touch on this. So what's your understanding of asset intelligence, Abdul? So let's carry on and quickly mention that before we finish.
After you enable software inventory,
Sorry?
uh, let's say for example, after you enable software inventory, okay,
Yeah.
You can use this information. Let's say how many license, how many software, how many user is using the software, and how many user is not. How many users are not using this software. So basically you can decide to continue buy the license for this software or not.
Nice. Okay. But the first one that you mentioned is that after you enable software inventory, is it software inventory that you're talking about?
I mean, the asset intelligent use software and hardware inventory.
Does he use software and hardware inventory?
Yes. So this information, it will be helpful for how we will decide.
What about
Hardware.
what do you think? Does asset intelligence uses hardware and software inventory?
Well, I think he uses software inventory
Okay.
yes, he uses hardware and software inventory because I mean that's how does it track software license in an organization? Because there has to be a way SCCM gets those licenses from the client. So to me, it would be hardware inventory. Yeah, it's hardware inventory. I would say hardware inventory.
Hardware inventory. Yeah, because I thought so also. Because from what I understand, now I could be wrong on this, so that's why I'm bringing up Microsoft's documentation on this. But from what I understand, Abdul, asset intelligence extends hardware inventory. Because one of the main things about asset intelligence is that one of the first things it does is it extends hardware inventory to, first of all, to collect more information from WMI. So for example, if we want to enable hardware inventory, so actually let's bring up this Microsoft documentation. I'm not sure. Okay, let's go. Okay, let you inventory and manage software license usage throughput through your enterprise by hardware. Okay, many hardware inventory WMI classes improve the breadth of information that is collected by hardware and software titles used. So it does extend. It seems what it extends is hardware inventory, not software inventory. So over 60 reports present in the information asset intelligence catalog, because one of the first things to do whenever you want to enable asset intelligence is you have to enable certain classes in hardware inventory. So for example, let's go, if I go, yeah, so if I go to the config manager infrastructure and I go, okay, I want to enable hardware inventory, I'm sorry, asset intelligence, right? One of the first things that I have to do is I have to go under client settings. I have to go under hardware inventory. That's one of the first things. So before you even do anything like installing the asset intelligence synchronization point, you go under asset hardware inventory, you go under classes, and you enable the classes for asset intelligence. So there are certain classes. So if I search for intelligence here, for example, and you can see these classes here, browser helper object asset intelligence, right? You can see all these classes that has asset intelligence in front of them. So these are the classes that you have to enable under hardware inventory to be able to use them. So first thing that you have to do is extend hardware inventory to collect more information for asset intelligence. So asset intelligence works with hardware inventory. I'm not sure. Abdul, there any questions regarding that?
Yeah, it's clear now.
Yeah, carry on. Your voice is again low again. So hello, yeah, carry on.
Yeah, basically, asset intelligence will extend the hardware inventory, okay,
Yep,
by adding some classes.
yep.
And maybe it's remote software installation on that one. Maybe.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
So maybe this, after you extend the hardware inventory,
Yep.
maybe also, if you, okay, see here I'm using the, see here, client setting hardware inventory.
Mm-hmm.
It also showing, software license product, asset intelligence,
Yep.
software shortcuts.
Yep.
So again, it also has some relation to the software inventory.
So it has, so again, so I understand it's semantics, but here's the thing is that again, hardware inventory does way much more than hardware inventory. Hardware inventory does software inventory by itself. So when you're talking about the standard terms for config manager, when they say hardware inventory, software inventory, it's confusing because software inventory is just file scanning. So like we mentioned, actually, to put it bluntly, software inventory is almost useless in configuration manager. So what do I mean by software inventory is almost useless? So if I go, are you, okay, yeah, let me cancel this one. Let me go under software inventory. If I disable software inventory from my machine, from my infrastructure, from client settings, it almost will make a difference to me, almost. Because even with software inventory disabled, I will still get information about software installed on my machines from hardware inventory. And actually, I will get a more accurate information about software installed on my machine from hardware inventory with this one disabled. Because what
Yes.
hardware inventory is doing is like we saw in the log files. What's it doing? WMI queries, right?
Yeah.
From WMI query, can I get information about the software that are installed on this machine? Absolutely yes. Like we showed last week, Taiwo, do you remember? WMIC is the command line to get to WMI and that comes with Microsoft. So if I go WMIC products list and press enter. So I'm saying WMI, get me the list of product on this machine. That is WMI query. This will get me the list of all the software currently installed on this machine. That is what hardware inventory is using. So actually, software inventory in Configuration Manager 2012, the reason why you're switching it on is not actually for software inventory. And we mentioned the reason why software inventory could be useful to you. We mentioned two reasons last week. Taiwo, do you want to remind us of what those two reasons are? Why you want to switch on software inventory? Even though it looks as if it's useless, because it's not giving you accurate. Look at this, Abdul. So from WMI now, I have information about these are all the software installed on this machine with their product code, with where their MSR files are, everything from WMI. So this is what hardware inventory is using. So with software inventory off, I will still have information about software installed from hardware inventory.
Okay.
Because hardware inventory is doing WMI query. And we can say, actually, if I go under classes, you can see that there are a lot of classes that are related to software here. So like installed software, okay, but this one is to extend for asset intelligence. But you can see here, installed applications. This is under hardware inventory. But I can get this information from hardware inventory on applications that are installed, whether 64 or 32-bit applications that are installed. I can get lots of information from hardware inventory here. So Taiwo, what are the two reasons why I want to turn on software inventory in my infrastructure? What two reasons, if you remember?
Well, one of the reasons I think, maybe if you're trying to um, collate, like maybe for instance, you're trying to find out all the scripts you're running on your system. For all like PowerShell scripts, you can run a scan that will collect all the PowerShell scripts on your system.
Yeah.
What's the other one again? I think that was one. Yeah. I think for there maybe for other files, maybe bat files and things like that. That's what I think software inventory will be useful for.
Yeah. Okay. What about DO? Do you remember any more of the two main reasons why we want to use? Because what we're basically saying now is, in terms of software inventory, like getting information about software installed on your machines in your environment, you actually don't need software inventory because software inventory won't help you in that regard at all. Software inventory will not help you with software inventory.
So is it like software inventory only helps for softwares that are not executables?
So no, so it doesn't even help for again. So what software inventory means, the term software inventory, right? What it means is information about software that is installed or running on my machines, right? Right? Do we agree on that definition? Information on
Um,
software that is installed and running on my machine.
well, would you classify MP3 under that? Because like
No.
you can use software inventory to scan MP3 files.
Yeah. So it doesn't MP3 files doesn't come under that. But if you take the term software inventory, like
Yeah.
just generally speaking, what comes to
Okay.
your mind
Yes.
is I need information on software that's running on my machine.
Yes.
I want to know if
Installed
the
on the machine.
exactly. I want to know if the machine has Windows Media Player installed, if it has WinDVD installed, if it has Java installed, right? That's what you think about when you think of software inventory.
Yeah.
Now, when you think of it that way, software inventory in Configuration Manager does not help you with that at all. in any way at all. Actually, it will confuse you. And we've explained the reason for that. Because what it's doing is scanning for files. It's not checking whether the application is actually installed. It's just scanning for files. So, and the other thing is that it's scanning for files and checking the headers of the file. And we mentioned that you could, in your infrastructure, let me do it again, just to make it a bit more graphic so it sticks. So you could install on your machine, you could install an application called Office, you've installed an application called Excel 2013. And under Excel 2013, you have an application called ddd.exe, ee.exe, fff.exe, jjj. Whatever, dll, bbb.dll. Now, this is Excel 2013 that you've installed, right? Under this ddd.exe that was added to your machine as part of Excel 2013, if you open the file header may say something like this. So what that means is I go on C drive program files and I go under the application that's installed on the machine, for example, maybe this one. I go under properties and I go under the details of the application and it says, oh, file description. And it says the file description is this, the product name is this. Okay, Microsoft Windows operating system, right? So under this one, you may have the same thing. So you go under this ddd.exe in under the Excel 2013 folder, and it says my name is Microsoft Excel whatever, and it says my product name is Excel 2007. And like, oh, hold on. But what software inventory will do is it will capture all this and report back to config manager and says, actually, you know what you have on your machine? You have Microsoft Excel 2007 installed on your machine, which is inaccurate. But what happened is when they are developing Excel 2013, Excel 2013 didn't come out of nowhere. Before they developed Excel 2013, they developed Excel 2010. And before they developed Excel 2010, they developed Excel 2007. Now, the way they do the development, when they are developing Excel 2007, they're like, let's introduce some new features to Excel 2007. So as part of that new feature introduction, they're like, we need to add an exe to Excel. And the exe is ddd.exe. Maybe that will be the thing that will run the ribbon. Again, this is just illustration. That will be the thing that will run the ribbon in Excel. Okay? And now they're like, yeah, we still need the ribbon in Excel 2010. So we still need ddd.exe. But when they added this guy, the file header mentioned Excel 2007. But because they are still using it in 2010, it still mentions Excel 2007. And because they are still using it in 2013, it still mentions Excel 2007. But config manager software inventory just does file scanning and scans this file. Whatever extension you say I should scan for, you will scan it and look for the file header information, which will mislead you. Because you have Excel 2013 installed, it will tell you you have Excel 2007 and you have Excel 2010, and it will tell you you have Excel 2013, and then you'll be confused. Hold on, I only installed 2013. How come it's telling me I have 2010 and 2007? Because there are files in Excel 2013 that were introduced in Excel 2007, and their file header is referencing Excel 2007. And actually, I as a user, I can right click my machine and create a new file and call the file ref.ddd. And if you are scanning for file with extension ddd, I can give this file a header name of Adobe Dreamweaver or whatever, if the Dreamweaver still exists, Adobe Dreamweaver. And whenever software inventory scan this file and looks for the file, it just goes, oh, there's a file here called ref.ddd which I have me to scan, The file header says Adobe Dreamweaver. Therefore, I'm going to report here you have Adobe Dreamweaver also installed on your machine. I'm not sure if that is clear. Is that clear at all?
Yeah, it's clear.
Whereas hardware inventory, even though it's wrong, it's not properly named because it does more than hardware inventory, is doing something much more than this. What it is doing is I'm having queries, WMI queries if it's Windows, or OMI queries if it's Linux and Macs. And the queries are basically things like the one that we saw in the log files. It's basically saying, tell me the applications that are installed on you. So if I go on my machine and I do a WMI query and I say get WMI object, namespace this, class that, tell me what is installed, I can get an accurate information in WMI. Just like what we did just now, where I did wmake product list, and let me pipe that into wmake.txt. So I'll just pipe that into a text file and let us see the information that comes out. So this is just a short WMI query, wmake product list, export the information that you get into a file called wmake.txt, and let's see what comes out from that. So that shouldn't take long and that should come out. So what we're saying is hardware inventory, even though it's called hardware inventory, it does way much more than hardware inventory. It can get any information that's in the WMI database, and information that's in the WMI database goes beyond hardware. There's software information in WMI database. So anything that can be obtained from the WMI database, you can get from hardware inventory. So actually, if I think I have WMI Explorer on my machine. So let me bring out WMI Explorer. Yeah, I do. WMI Explorer. WMI. Okay, let's just open this one. Open file location. Let's just quickly open a new window. Let me just open there and let's see. So okay, let's see why it's doing that. Let's see if this has finished. Okay, it's still processing. So I have lots of software installed. Okay, WMI Explorer. Let me connect to this machine, right? And here we go. I'm connected to WMI database that's on this machine. A database just stores information. That's all WMI is. It's a database that stores information. And okay, if I go on the WMI root cmvim2, okay, here we go. This is the namespace, right? Okay, there are different sub objects under this. So maybe I go under applications, okay, under this one, okay, or like there are different ones. Like for example, the one that contains like the applications that installed on this machine. Um, so let's see. I can go. I can keep going down. Okay, you have this one that talks about hardware. Yeah. There's okay. WMI. Or standard Vim V2. So there's a particular one that just talks about just general information that's installed on this software that's installed on this machine. But why am I next? Okay, classes. Okay, classes. WMI. Or just yeah, Google it or something. Let me bring this one up again. Okay, yeah, this one has finished. So if I open wmake.txt here and I press enter, this is the file that came out from it. So if I remove the word wrapping, now look at this. This is telling me an accurate information from WMI database, all the software that I have installed on my machine. This is not scanning file headers or anything. This is actually things that are installed on this machine. So all these applications that is listing here, they are all installed on my machine, including their product codes, everything listed here, showing me everything accurately. It's not going to tell me I have Office 2013 and 2010 and this one. It's going to tell me I have Office 2013 installed, period. But this information is in the WMI database. Now, anything you can get from the WMI database, you can get with hardware inventory. So if you wanted to query more WMI databases, we can go and extend the classes. Or let's say we even install a custom application on my machine. And what that custom application has done is that custom application has created a new namespace into the WMI database, because you can install sometimes some custom application that will create their own namespace in WMI database. I can go under my config manager infrastructure here and go, okay, under the standard namespaces in WMI and the standard classes, the application that I just installed is not here. So I can go ahead and even import that class and import it in form of a MOV file and import it, because sometimes software providers or software application developers can write a software that creates its own namespace and classes in WMI, and they will give you MOV files that you can import into something like this and say, by the way, I want you to query this part of the WMI database also. So you can import into it custom MOV files that will even query more custom. So anything that you can query from WMI, you can get in hardware inventory. Is that clearer, Abdul, Taiwo, and Dio? Is that way much more clearer?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's clear.
Yeah.
I
So
have a question.
yeah, carry on.
No, it's just I wanted to ask one question about, because you mentioned morph. Now
Yeah.
um there are morph files and there are MIF files.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a bit confused, but the only conclusion I got to is with MIF file, you have to create those MIF files yourself. Then you now store them manually. You have to store them I think inside any of the clients, inside a particular folder that SCCM will scan or something like that. I don't know. Does that make sense?
So that one, to be sincere with you, like if I go back to this one, so I don't have like a deep understanding in terms of more files and me files. So the way I've come to understand more files is this. So more files are ways to extend the
WM.
info exactly to extend WMI or to extend the information that config manager can capture. So again, if I go back to this one and I go um, more files, or if I even go like there's maybe places where I can download. Okay, list of programs I can open more files. No, not just list of programs. What I want is maybe certain
MIF files.
application providers, or let me just go, let me try this. Dell more files. I'm not sure if Dell have some more files, but let's see if we can find some Dell more files somewhere. Okay.
Software have for their applications.
Sophos does.
Yeah, that's
That's interesting. Sophos more files. That's interesting. Let's check Sophos more files then. So if Sophos has more files. Okay. Where? Well, let's see. Okay. So this CIM, okay, yeah. So this one is basically saying, okay, so we have some more files that we can probably download here. Yep. Let's go here. Hide this. Yeah, okay, here we go. Let me try to download this. Okay, let's download it. Let's open it. So what this one is doing is that, for example, if you have a Dell server, there are some information maybe about iDRAC 8 that are stored in WMI, right? But they are not under the standard WMI namespaces and classes that you can see here. So maybe it's going to have its own separate namespace here, or it's going to have its own separate extra class that we create here. But if you go under hardware inventory and extend classes here, you won't find that class listed here. Okay, for example, let's try to see the one for installed applications. I think we should even be, so installed application is under Win32 Reg add removes programs. So let's try to locate that in WMI Explorer. It is here somewhere. It is definitely here somewhere.
Is it not possible to do like a search?
Is it
and if you search every namespace
every
class?
namespace? Yeah, yeah, I think it should be possible.
That's
Um,
what I'm thinking.
so I think it should be possible. I'm not sure. Okay, this under this to filter classes, but under like the namespace itself. Okay, let me just bring up Google. Let's just try to make this quicker. So if I go here, let's say installed applications WMI namespace. So let's see which namespace it's located in WMI for applications that are installed on this machine. Find the software via WMI. Okay, let's see which namespace if the person can. Okay, namespace is root simvm2. This telling me from SCCM. I'm not looking from the SCCM namespace. So actually, it could be that it's from. Okay, yeah. So actually, yeah, that's absolutely true. So because that's like one other example, is that whenever you install WMI client on a machine, it actually adds a separate namespace. Let me give you an illustration to that. So, for example, look at this WMI Explorer on this machine, right? On my machine. This machine doesn't have the WMI down, the SSM clients installed, right? Now,
Yeah,
look at all these namespaces here. So let me go to a client that has um, SCCM client installed and also has so this one, I have WMI Explorer here. So let me bring that up. And you see that WMI adds its own namespace to the machine. So if I connect to that, so look at CCM. So you can see root CCM here, right?
yeah,
This is the namespace that was added when you installed the configuration manager client. Now look at that. Now look at my machine that doesn't have SCCM clients. Now you can see root CCM here, right?
yeah.
Because I don't have the SCCM client. So SCCM client actually adds its own extra namespace to the machine that it stores separate information about the machine. So that's one of the. So for example, that's an example of WMI extension because this is a namespace that was just added. So like Dell has created one where you can maybe Dell has one where you can get information about iDRAC, from WMI that you can import. Or whenever you install any application, it's going to extend WMI. You can get that information. But again, let the one that I was looking for. So let's go. So this one is telling me from SCCM. Enumerating installed software. Let's just check to standard one, no SCCM. Okay, so what is that? What's the namespace? What's the class? That's what I'm looking for. Namespace and class. Uh, can you just point me in the right direction? Okay, root simv2 win32 product class. Okay, root simv2. Any classes? So I'm not seeing any extra classes here. I'm sure that there's I'm sure that it's got the classes there somewhere. Um, okay, let's see. Win32 product class. It is there somewhere. Um, where are you? And then you see that. Let's go scroll down. Where is it located? Win32. Okay, let me just go Win32 product class. Let me see if I see anything on there. Okay, this one will probably help. PowerShell, as long as it's not querying the SCCM one. Hmm. Get WMI object win32 underscore product, but that's querying like the default root simv2. But why am I not seeing that? Maybe because I'm not opening this as administrator. Maybe I need to run that as administrator. So let's go to WMI Explorer. Let's copy it. Let me copy it to my desktop. Um, Let me copy it inside this one. Paste. Run as administrator. Come on, come on. Yeah, connects to this machine. Root simv2. Here we go. It's because I'm not running as administrator. So that's why I wasn't able to see like all these classes. So Win32, right? So you can see all these classes under root simv2, right? And Win32 installed software. So you can see installed Win32 programs, okay? And I can see all these instances. And if I click on any of these instances, look at that. It's telling me this is Silverlight installed on this machine. This one is telling me this Windows Phone 8.1. So this is information about all the software that's installed from on this machine. This one because I have the Azure command line tools installed. So basically, I'm getting this information from WMI. This is what SCCM is doing. It's doing a WMI. Sorry, this is what hardware inventory is doing. So that should let you understand that anything that you can get from WMI, you can get with hardware inventory. If the classes that you're looking for, if they are not in configuration manager by default, you can export them and then import them. So for example, look at this. I can copy, let's say this class is not in the configuration manager. For example, this Win32 installed underscore Win32 program, right? Let's go to our SCCM infrastructure and see what the hardware inventory is querying. So you can see it's querying Win32 underscore reg underscore add remove programs. So there is a class there called this that is querying. So let's say there's a class I want hardware inventory to query, but it's not here. I can use something like this to export the MOV file for that class, yeah, and then import it into config manager. So this could be something that maybe within Windows itself, or maybe I install like a custom application that has created some custom classes or custom namespaces. I can use that. So I've copied the MOV file. Let me see if I can paste it inside my config manager environment somewhere. So okay, no, you won't allow me to paste it there. Let's go.
Was there no option to export?
So let me see. So I didn't see. So if I right click on it, for example, it says show MOV, copy paths, show MOV. So it's, okay, that's the MOV file, for example. Okay, maybe I can copy this and just save it to .mov. So this is what the MOV looks for. Yeah, sorry, it looks like. So it says, so the only options I have here is show MOV, or copy path. So, but you get, I mean, do you get the general idea?
Yeah,
So
I
you
get
can
the
use
general
that.
idea.
So you can use that to,
More.
yeah. So the MIF one, I have a vague understanding of it. So the vague understanding I have is that there are two types of MIF files. There's one called ID MIF or no ID MIF.
ID NIF and
Yeah.
ID.
And what that happens is information that you wanted to collect, you put it in inside. You know, when we went on the config manager, we went on the Windows CCM, not under this one. If you go under a client, on the C Windows CCM,
Inventory, I think.
yeah, under inventory, and then you drop the MIF files here, and then the machine will collect that information when it's doing hardware inventory. So now, the reason why I've not really been interested in like studying it that much because I've not actually had to use it. So
Yeah, I think
yeah.
it's, to me, I think it's information that I read somewhere is information that you can't add code into a computer. You know, maybe it's like inventory number that you give computers
Mm-hmm.
at work or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
I think I
I
read
think
that one
that's
also.
what it's used for. From the
Yeah,
information I gather,
yeah.
maybe you give computer names.
Yeah, I think I
Like,
read that also. But the other thing to mention also that I think I remember reading, now I may not be able to get this accurately because it's been a while since I read this, is that there's a template that you can use to create the MIF files in Config
okay,
Manager.
yes. Okay, if there is a template, then
Yeah.
that makes sense because I
So,
know
yeah,
create a MIB file, then you put it in that folder, then
yeah,
SCCM
we
scans,
collect it. Yeah.
yeah, collects it because it
Uh,
scans that folder also.
.mif. So there is a template
Then
here somewhere.
so that will make perfect sense on how
Um,
to create it because that's what I was confused about.
so let's go. So if I just search for MIF file templates configuration manager. So there's a template here. There's a template here. So again, Abdul, what do you have you ever used MIF files before or deal? Do you understand a lot about MIF files?
Oh no.
No, yeah, I've never had to use them before, so I've not actually had to study them like that. To create IDMA files, to create no IDMA files. Um, so I only have like a vague understanding, like what I will mention. It can help you to collect extra information, like the things like serial numbers, what I will mention. That's a new inventory class. So yeah, I just clicked on the topic now. So where's the topic? I want topic about how to create a MIFI file. What are you doing? Show me how to create a MIFI file. Okay, here we are. Uh, is it down here? Okay, to create no ID MIFI files. Okay. Um, okay. So what about the create ID MIFI files? I think they mentioned that you must declare new hardware classes. They've used a template somewhere. Ah, uh, yeah. So I think there's a template somewhere that we can use to copy to create the MIF files if we need to. But I've not actually had to use them, so I've not studied them. It's not as if it's not useful because there's some information that even though you may not use them, they can increase your understanding of how things work.
Yeah.
So we may not even use them, but it may increase our understanding. So I think we've already ran beyond that time. But at least I think that for now we have a more clearer understanding of how hardware inventory works and what software inventory is. Do we? Do we have a more clearer understanding? So
Yes.
software inventory, so just to give a reminder from last week, there are two main reasons why you enable software inventory, even though it doesn't help you with software inventory, the definition. So one reason, if you want to do something like what I will mention, want to do something like HR audit, you know, um, Abdul is the CEO. Abdul has this special secret file called company finance.docx. Now, Taiwo is a dodgy employee, and Taiwo is like, wow, I need this information about company finance. So Taiwo is an admin logged into connected to the CEO's machine, connected to Abdul's machine over the network, and copied that file. Now, if Taiwo hasn't renamed that file, and Taiwo stored that file, what I can say is use software inventory to collect every docx file on Taiwo's machine. So it's not only just scanning for .txt. So I can say scan this machine and collect every file that has the extension docx from that machine. And then I can look through all of them to see if Taiwo has copied the file from the CEO's computer. So that's one usage for software inventory. The other usage is many times we're doing application deployment. We want to use some things like check if the file um, something.exe, if that file has this version number. If you're going to be using all those kind of requirements in your application deployment, then you have to enable software inventory. So because sometimes you're doing requirement for your application deployment and you're saying, can you check if if the machine has something.exe on it? If you're going to be using all those kind of requirements, you need to switch on hardware inventory. So that's one thing to notice. So those are the two reasons why you use software inventory. It's not actually for software inventory. For software inventory, it's hardware inventory and asset intelligence. So you can use hardware inventory by itself to get you the information, but then you can extend hardware inventory with asset intelligence. So, and we've already showed the beginning stages of how to do that. Is that first thing you have to do is classes on asset intelligence. You have to extend them, you have to enable them in hardware inventory. So whichever one that you want to. So for example, you want to use asset intelligence for software licensing product. It uses hardware inventory to query WMI. So hardware inventory queries WMI on behalf of asset intelligence and then passes the information to asset intelligence to report on. So that's just the thing to notice. So you have to enable the ones that you want on this one and then click OK and then you go from there. So any question about what we've discussed today before we go off, because we've overrun a lot.
Um, Well, it's not this question.
Yeah.
I was wondering. Well, I think we've run out of time.
Yeah.
It was just I was thinking about that client deployment. If
Yep.
you could just quickly.
No, we will. No, myself and you, we can carry that offline and discuss that.
Okay,
Even if
that's
it's not today, even if you're tired today, we can carry that offline, discuss it tomorrow or something.
uh, well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, okay. I'm
Yeah.
so happy to do it today or something.
Yeah, I'm okay also. I'm okay, yeah. So we can
Uh,
carry that offline so we don't delay Abdul and Dio. So Taiwo
oh,
was just talking about some client installation and we're just talking about different options. So we can carry that offline. Any other question about the things that we discussed today? Abdul, Dio, any questions at all?
Yes, basically, the WMI, if it's corrupted.
I can't hear you clearly again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better now. Much better now.
Okay.
Ah,
For WMI,
yeah.
if it's corrupted on the client machine, it should
Again,
not report accurate
I
information.
think your mic is like it's like it will be clear for like 1 second, then it will go back again.
Okay, let me.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Still faint. It's okay. If you speak, maybe I'll try to strain my ears to listen. So yeah, if you carry on speaking,
Can you hear me now?
it's still faint. It's still the same thing. But
Okay,
if you carry
basically,
on
it is.
speaking, yeah.
Yeah, it is for the WMI. If it's corrupted on the client machine. What I know, we can rebuild the WMI. But my question, what, how this rebuilding the WMI will happen?
Okay, you're talking about if we have to rebuild the WMI database, if it gets
Yes,
corrupted or something.
yes,
And how will that affect? No, because if WMI is corrupted, hardware inventory will not be able to get the information that it needs.
yes, correct.
Yeah.
So rebuilding on the WMI on the client machine,
Yep.
what exactly the change will happen?
So that's a separate one. So that question I'll need to research it
Okay,
about
okay,
how exactly because again like how it's one of the things that I'm trying to read more about in terms of how because I'm doing lots more stuff with PowerShell also and then I have to use a lot of WMI. How WMI puts information in database. So it's some
yes,
I think that's all part of it because my guess would be if it's corrupted, it will basically dump all the information and rebuild it again because it's again it's just a database like what we can see here. WMI is just a database, so if this gets corrupted it will drop all this information and then rebuild it from the machine. So I think one of the things that I was reading about it is that okay, WMI uses like if you go on WMI, so it's like a framework or a standard, and the standard is a standard that has been defined that anybody that's creating software or hardware must make information about that software or hardware available through something they call WebM. Also, you can see if I expand this one, so expand this. So Um, WMI uses the Common Information Model Industry Standard. So it's a standard to represent systems, application, network devices, and other management components. SIM is developed and maintained by this task force. So if you open that, so basically it's like anyone that is creating hardware or software or applications, you must make that information available through okay, yeah, through the web services management. And then basically that is what the operating system can query. So whenever you plug a machine, a hardware into your machine, you must be able to make that information available through a particular method, and then the operating system can query the method. That's why we can query that for that information. So, so again, I know that's not like a really too clear understanding. I'm sure that in the very future, I'll be able to give you a more clearer explanation.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Or does anyone have, or Taiwo or Dio, do you have a clearer answer for that?
No, no, not at all.
Okay.
I've not really
Yeah,
studied
yeah,
WMI
yeah,
that much.
yeah, me too. What about Dio? Any answer for that? Like in terms of how WMI when it's rebuilding the database? Anything? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So any other question, Abdul?
Okay, when you run a query about installed application, okay, let's say that I want to
Yep.
check the IE version installed on my machine.
Mm-hmm.
It is check the hardware, database, or software. I mean, it is hardware inventory or software inventory.
No, that's just so there's a lot of again it's W so you can query not just add you can query software hardware so everything that you can get here. So this is just the ones that we get. Everything that you can get information about logical disk here. So if I double click on that, you can see it's telling me the logical disk on my machine, C drive and F drive.
No.
Yeah,
Let's say that I want to create a query to list the machine which has IE, and
yeah,
which IE version is installed. Okay.
yeah.
So basically, the SSM, which inventory he will
Mhm.
look. Is it hardware inventory or software inventory?
Hardware.
Hardware.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So can I run
it
this?
depends on again. So here's one thing, Abdul. Here's one thing to realize. That information, it depends on okay, for example. So that's a I'm sure that we'll get to this when we cover queries. It depends. So for example, if I go on that monitoring here, I know I don't have reporting services installed, so I won't see anything here yet. But there are different types of reports. So there are reports that are based on software inventory. There are reports that are based on hardware inventory. So it depends on what you're checking for. So for example, if I go on that Resource Explorer on this machine here, yeah, if I go devices, let me look for a device and I'll show you why I said it depends. So it depends on how you're writing your query. So if it's reports, there are different reports for hardware inventory, there are different reports for software inventory. So it depends on which of the reports you're using. If it's a query that you're creating, it depends on how you've created the query. For example, I'm under here. I can write a query that will look under software inventory or that will look under hardware
I
inventory.
don't think you can see your screen.
Oh, sorry. Let me sorry about that. Let me bring up my yeah, I forgot I stopped sharing. So let's go back to this one. Present desktop, screen one, share desktop. Um, so can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can write a query that's based on software inventory. I can write a query that's based on hardware inventory. So, for example, now I can write a query based on hardware inventory that will check under installed applications. How do I do that? If I go under administration again, we'll get into this when we talk about queries. I'll show you how I have learned to write good queries. So if I go under, sorry, monitoring, go under queries, create a query, call it anything, um, test edit query statement. So object type system resource, right?
Yes.
Yep. So edit query statement. So it depends on how I've written my query. So if I go under the criteria and I say what I'm looking for, okay, simple value, select what I'm looking for something under. So it depends on the way I've written my
Let,
query.
let me tell you how I build this
Yep.
query. Actually, I open SQL Management Studio. Okay.
Yep.
I
No,
open
that's a report.
views.
That's not a query. That's a report.
That's a report.
Yeah. So SQL management. So if you're talking about query, you're talking about
No,
W.
again, you will get SQL query, but later on you can convert it to WQL.
So again, that is a report. So whenever you're talking about queries, a query is actually okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, so the query is written in WQL, but the machine will convert it to SQL.
No. See, when I run this, let's say report, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have a SQL query, okay,
Yep.
which is it's simple to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I did, I just converted to WOL. sorry, WQL,
Yep.
which SSL will be able to. I just paste it, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I get the result.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem, I have some duplicate records for some of the machine. I have two records, same machine.
Yep.
So I just
And
that's why I'm asking.
is it showing
How
you?
it will
Is it showing you that you have two versions of Internet Explorer installed?
actually I have to record for the same machine and the same version because the file version is mentioned. It is the same.
Oh, the same. It's showing you that you have the same version,
Yes.
but it's showing you two times.
Yes, showing me two times.
My guess would be that most likely using. So again, I don't think I won't say that's definitive that it's using hardware inventory. I'll say it could still be using hardware or software inventory. So it
I
depends. So it
think
depends on how you've built the query or the report.
Or is it possible that it's using both?
No. So here's the thing. If I go here under my query here, if I go and say under software files here or under software product here, so that's using software inventory. If I scroll up here and I go under installed application here, so again it depends on the attribute class that you're looking at. If I go under installed application or installed software or whatever, installed software here, this is using the hardware inventory part of installed software.
Okay.
So it depends on what class you're selecting when you're building the query. It depends. It depends on what it's using. So because that's the one I'm using here, and I'm saying, okay, installed soft. Oh, sorry, not installed software. Installed applications. My bad. So these two, because you can see these two are classes from. If I go under Resource Explorer, these two are classes under hardware inventory, right? Installed applications, installed application 64. So whenever I specify these two, it's pointing to hardware inventory. So it depends on which class you're using when you're building your query. Whereas if I go back again, so I could decide not to use installed applications or installed application 64, which are hardware inventory. So depending on which class I'm now using, it will determine what it's using, whether it's using hardware inventory or software inventory, or whether it's even just using Active Directory information. So it depends is the answer. So it depends on you have to know whatever class you select here when you're building your query, you have to know where that class is getting its information from. So because if I select installed applications here, these two I'm guaranteed they're coming from hardware inventory. Okay, here's another one under PC BIOS here. Whenever I select PC BIOS here, I know that the information, if I scroll up and I scroll to where PC BIOS is, I'll see PC BIOS somewhere. Yeah, you can see PC BIOS here, right? I'm guaranteed this is coming from, and another way to know what is coming from hardware or software inventory is that hardware inventory always keeps a history, software inventory doesn't. So you can see a lot of this have the mobile device power extended history. So anyone that is showing you like all this history, they're coming from hardware inventory. Like if I go under installed applications, installed application will show me installed application 64, and then the history. But then you see some of them that doesn't show you like any history whatsoever. If I scroll down to let's see, um, I think I saw one about software. Um, Okay, for example, see software product here. There's nothing called software product history, right? So you can see. So my guess would be this is coming. If you investigate it, this information that this guy is querying is coming from software inventory. So it depends on what you're pointing to whenever you're building your query. So you can have a query that it's taking information from hardware inventory, from software inventory, from Active Directory. Because, for example, if you say get also use information about last logon date, that information is not coming from hardware inventory or software inventory. It's coming from Active Directory. So you can use information from multiple sources in a query or in a report. So it depends on the information you're
What
pointing to. Yeah. Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, what what I came to know, this classes, it has a specific database for each class. So
Yeah.
I think, understanding the database name and the class, maybe we can, have a good idea about doing some report on the SQL,
Yeah, I
SQL
agree.
side.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. I have I was thinking of because reporting was one that I actually like studied a lot and a lot because of more recently I had to do a lot of that at work. And it's one other thing. So there's a particular book that I retweeted. So on my Twitter, I was happy when I saw that book because when I was having to do more and more reporting, there was very little book that I could find on reporting. And when I was so on my Twitter feed one day, I saw one guy say, there's a new book coming out on just focusing on SCCM SQL reporting." I was excited. So actually, like yeah, when we get to the reporting section, I will show you how I've learned to create reports also. Because basically, our DBA at work, the guys who does SQL DBA for us at work, we sat down together for a 1 hour meeting, and he basically just took me through an overview of how to create proper reports. And he said the same thing that you mentioned, that first thing you have to do is you have to understand the schema of database you're dealing with.
Yes.
So again, yeah, we'll get to that when we get to reports. So if I go under like my just okay, if I scroll down, there's one about SCCM reporting book that I retweeted what that guy said. Because a lot of my tweets are just retweets of what different people have said. Scroll down, scroll down. So there's a particular. So I'm excited about that book. They said it will come out in May or something, and it's just basically reporting. Hello. Sorry, I lost connection. I'm not sure why. So let me search for SCCM, or let me search for reporting. Report. Okay, here we go. My friend had got upcoming book on configuration manager reporting, and I looked up that book. And just seeing the title enough, I was excited because when I was struggling on how to get information about how to create proper reports, I just went to talk to our DBA to help me and show me how. So yeah, I'm excited about this book, System Center Configuration Manager Reporting. So I'm like, wow, I'm I'm looking forward to this one. So actually, I didn't. I'm not sharing my screen again. Let me share my screen just so you see. So share my screen. So I just saw it on my Twitter feed that there's a new book that's coming, and that's the title, System Center Configuration Manager Reporting Unleashed. And instantly I retweeted it. I'm like, yep, I've been waiting for a book on this topic.
Hello.
Hello? Oh, hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
you were muted.
Oh, sorry, I just lost connection completely.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah,
thinking, because
yeah.
it looked like both of you were still talking. I was thinking, oh,
What's going on? Yeah.
yeah.
So basically, I was going through my Twitter feed one day, and I saw this tweet about a book on configuration manager reporting. And I know that I struggled when I was started working with configuration manager reporting. I struggled a lot with it because there wasn't any clear book that would actually just focus on reporting. So I had to do so I sat down with our DBA at work. So we have two guys at work that focused on just SQL DBAs. So I sat down with one of them and we had a 1 hour meeting and he showed me how to do it properly. So that's how I learned how to do it properly. But then I'm still looking forward to this book because it's written by Microsoft MVP and it's just focused on System Center Configuration Manager reporting. So I'm really looking forward to it. It will be released in May. So when they release it, I'm buying it. Yeah. So yeah, so we'll get to reporting. So yeah, so it's a really interesting one because a lot of SSM guys I think will struggle with it just like I did because we're not DBAs. But there's a way to learn it properly. Okay, nice one. Any other questions before we call it a day?
No.
Yep. Dio, any questions? Okay. Yep. Okay, so nice hanging out with you guys again. So we continue from there next week on asset intelligence. I hope for now, if anybody asks you, hey, what's going on with this hardware inventory, even like how do you troubleshoot or stuff like that, I believe you have more information that you can follow. with understanding what's going on. So you know that, hey, software inventory. So whenever you go under software inventory and you just try it at work. I mean, go at work if you never know software inventory and go under Resource Explorer and go under software here and go under product details. I mean, just go and try it at work and see what you find. My guess is you find that you see a single machine that has Windows 10 and Windows 8 and Windows 7 and Windows XP. That's exactly what you find, and now you understand the reason why you find that. So when it comes to software, knowing which software is installed, just ignore this guy right there. Yeah. Okay, man. So we'll see you again next week. Have a wonderful time. Yeah.
All right.
See you. Yeah. Cheers. Bye. Taiwo, yeah, you can stay. We can stay on, and then we can do our discussion on config manager client. Yeah. See you later, guys.